Hello and
Hello.
welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I'll introduce you to my wonderful guest, Martin Dickerson. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both of us to connect with like minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Rae, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and I'm a spiritual guide and healer who is passionate about helping you reconnect with your divine presence and step into your purpose. Now, through angelic Reiki, angel oracle cards, guided meditations, and exploring past and future lives, I support you in healing your past and creating a soul aligned future. Now, my journey has taught me that with the right tools and guidance, we can all connect with our higher selves, embrace transformation, and live a life of abundance and fulfillment. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guide meditation angel oracle card with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Martin Dickerson, talking about who are my angels. Now, Martin is a retired community practitioner with a diverse background and a passion for supporting others on their well-being journey. After spending 16 years helping those facing challenges with drugs and alcohol, Martin now focuses his time on promoting peace, mindfulness, and holistic health in the wider community. A musician since childhood, Martin also brings a creative and grounded perspective to the work, blending his love for music with his interest in meditation, acupressure, and traditional Chinese medicine. He is the host of the podcast Peace Unplugged, where he explores personal peace and walking in and well-being in conversations with guests from around the world. And have been a guest on Martin's show as well. So without further delay, hello, Martin, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Ray. Thank you for inviting me.
Ah, you are welcome. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Martin and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. So Martin, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how we can find out about our angels from your perspective?
Yes, certainly. I probably grew up in a as a kind of a bit of a misogynist, old-fashioned time in the 1970s, where all this kind of thing around angels was a little bit uh, encouraged not to be engaged with, if you like. So, and I went to an all-boys school as well. So there was kind of a lot of that kind of thing. So, having all those kind of feelings wasn't around them. But gradually through my life, I've kind of learned to engaged learn I've learned to engage with it because I think it's always been there. It's something that it's something I kind of realised that I do have a touch of intuition. I can pick up times when there's an atmosphere where something's not very comfortable. I can be in the presence of people, and sometimes I've walked away from situations where later on discovered that there was a conflict or a fight or something at a local pub or something like that. And I can kind of sense that as I work around. Coming to work with the work I did before I retired was a quite a long old journey because I left school with next to nothing in the way of qualifications, and I drifted in and out of jobs in factories. I worked as a shipping agent for a while, um, and I finally ended up working with people. And the little short story about that was down to I was working at one point. I was for a year or so. I was working in London on, of all things, the congestion charge scheme. So I was commuting to London, and I was in debt because I made a mess of my finances. I was feeling quite down and depressed at the time, and this on the way home one evening late, a lad got on the train, looking a bit dishevelled, probably a bit drunk, possibly under the influence of other substances, going around begging off people on that train. And I thought, please don't come and sit next to me because I'm really not in the mood and I've got nothing I can give you." And everybody else was telling him to go away. And then eventually he did sit down beside me. And as he sat beside me and told me his story, I said, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. There's nothing I can give you." And he cried and he sobbed and he sobbed and he sobbed as if I was the last person he was ever going to ask. So we just talked for a little while, and he kept disappearing, coming back, um, and eventually I got off the train, said goodbye to him. He was then arguing with other people and shouting and one thing and another. Never saw the guy again in my life. I do remember he had a pair of blue shorts and a yellow t-shirt. That's all I can remember about him, and it really said something to me that I felt there was nothing I could give him. Yet he seemed to stick to me. He wanted to sit next to me because I guess I was listening to him, and that's how I got into doing the kind of social work I'm doing now. I started working off at a hostel and then moved into the drugs and alcohol field after that. Uh, so it was a message really for me that I'd gone through my life thinking, what am I here for? Why, what sort of work am I good at doing? I wasn't really didn't feel particularly good at anything. But then I think that was and I think of that guy as possibly being an angel, because you know, because it was a message that led me into a month or so later moving into that work that I did. So something was telling me that I needed to move. Um, it was like a chapter in my life. I use the words life chapters. So it was a chapter in my life to move into that area, and I found a mojo really. I suppose, um, about sort of feeling feeling a bit of empathy for people that were particularly in very difficult, awkward positions. And it's moved from there to uh, picking up mindfulness, which is another occasion when I don't travel very well. I was away from home a few years ago, and um, feeling particularly anxious, um, quite away from home, anxiety attacks going on and so on. And this guy that I met, who was a friend of a friend, just said we were sitting in the field. He said, "Just sit quietly, cross-legged on the floor," and taught me how to breathe. And he said, "Everything's okay. Just listen to the sound of the wind blowing, watching the clouds go by. Everything else is going on is completely normal. This is everything's absolutely fine." And in sort of 10 minutes, he calmed me right down, and that really fascinated me. So I started then kind of like making inquiries into all that kind of mindfulness and meditation, and then again found with the work I'm doing that actually it really fitted with me, and it was something that worked really well with the clients I was working with. That they come in a really chaotic mess at times. Um, One in particular, I can remember one particularly uh, heavy heroin user coming in to see me who was at it all over the place, all sorts of things going on. And I just did a little 10-minute meditation with him. He'd already seen his key worker. He was just seeing me on a separate thing. And so he'd gone from his head down to leaving with his head held high and his shoulders back. He walked out and his key worker said to him, or he said his key worker said to me, "What did you do to him?" I said, I just did a little bit of 10-minute meditation with him." And for that moment, that lad completely changed, and he started recovery from that point on. So then I realised that there's something there that I've become a conduit. It's not me. I've become a conduit for being able to help people, and that continues to this day. And that's, but I'm still seeking. I'm still looking for what it is. There's still, and I'm comfortable with looking and seeking and being, we said before, being curious. As we said when you came on my thing, I'm comfortable with being curious about what makes us tick, what makes people tick. Because when I speak to people and learn from other people, when I speak to, that trying to help other people, I feel I'm learning and I'm talking to me as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. With all the guests that I've had on my show, I'm always learning, and it's just so amazing. All that different information, even if it's people doing the same thing as me, there's something different that they have that I kind of like. Oh, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. So yeah, it's amazing how when you do actually put yourself out there to talk to people, that the information, if you do it with the way of being curious, the information that comes back to you is so impactful.
Absolutely, and it's one of the little things I've picked up. I've kind of learned recently is when we listen, is to listen to understand rather than to listen to respond, and that's quite challenging. In fact, it's very challenging to do that. But I try to remember that for myself, and for various jobs I've done, even as a customer services representative in the motor trade, is actually uh, through some training through that, just learning that if somebody's going to make a complaint, allow that person to express their complaint first. Don't get too defensive. Just allow the person to say what they've got to say, even if they're really angry, and then clarify what they've said, and then ask them what they'd like to see as a resolution. And there's a lot of psychology in that, and that really works. That was the early stages of doing the work that I ended up doing. Is that it's not just about I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong, or I've got to defend my position. It's actually getting to learning to actually listen to people and try to understand what they're saying that's even perhaps behind the words. Sometimes people's expressions and their body language can tell you an awful lot more than what they say or don't say.
Yeah, which is why, kind of like if you're angry, don't text, or if you're, or even if you're happy, don't text, because the text may come out completely different way to what you actually thought it was going to be, because you can't see the emotions or hear the tone of the voice.
Absolutely. As much as we get emojis we can use, I'm quite aware of that. Sometimes I can be texting something. You'll be very, very careful about, as we are English, we tend to like to use a bit of nuance when we speak, and that doesn't always come out the same on something written down. Again, there was another thing about writing. If you're gonna write an answer to a complaint letter, then write it angry first. Get all the emotion out of it first. Leave it, then go back to it, and then clean it up. Because if you try to be professional straight off, if you're frustrated because someone's really cross with the service you provided, all you're going to do is express your own anger back, and it's just going to cause conflict. So it's that way of actually get all the emotion out first, walk away, then come back, then clean it up.
Yeah, and and you can do that in your personal life as well. If someone's annoying you, rather than reacting straight away, take
Yeah,
those steps back.
yeah. The old what we should refer to as what we call sober breathing. Sober breathing. That's S, stop. O, observe. B, breathe. E, expand. into the diaphragm, and ah, then respond.
Ah, that's something. See, that's something I've now learned because I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a great one, and the technical side of that, the evidence side of that is that when we breathe in properly, we're breathing in oxygen. So the oxygen's going into the blood, and that's then feeding the brain. So if the brain's being fed with oxygen, then actually then we're going to be thinking straight. We're less likely to panic. We're less likely to respond in a inappropriate way. We're more likely to use our own wisdom.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what other spiritual angelic experiences have you had? Because I know you've had some others.
I have, yeah, yeah. The one that I think we spoke about before was where at the end of 2020 when I, like many people, caught COVID, finished up in hospital for 8 days, uh, and and it was really touch and go in a ward, on a COVID ward in a room of 5 beds, and it was like I kind of think of it almost as if in the trenches in the First World War kind of thing. There was a spiritual warfare I felt was going on because lots of people were dying in the 8 days I was there. I think was it, I can't remember how many days. There was about 6 or 7 people died in that room alone in the time I was there. So I thought my number was up. I really thought it was all over. And the first night or two, because days and nights roll into one in those situations, I had all kinds of. I was kind of, am I going to die? Is it going to be the end? Is it over? And asking that question in my mind during the night, um, and a sense of, and some of this may be to do with medication as well. I accept that, but it did feel almost like a bit of a near-death experience. Of I don't, I don't want to die. I've got too much to do. Too many things I need to carry on with. I've got too much in life to experience. Um, and I can remember thinking, I'm not going to make the mistake of saying, well, if I'm saved, then I'm going to be a very good boy. And I'm not going to do anything wrong the rest of my life. It's, you know, that I knew that couldn't be true. I knew I couldn't make that promise. And I said in my mind, I can't make that promise, but I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And it was like time stood still. Uh, Everything felt important, and nothing felt important at the same time. Um, and it was almost like I was waiting for an answer, but I didn't know. And I knew the answer had been decided, but I didn't know what the answer was. And I can remember in the morning, a nurse coming round to me, and I just said, "Can you tell my wife and my kids I love them?" And she said, "Don't worry, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay." By this time, my voice had gone a bit strange, and they were worried that I'd had a stroke. Um, I hadn't, in fact, had a stroke. Fortunately, I think it was probably the medication they gave me that caused that to happen. But they were certainly worried because my heartbeat was running at about 220 beats a minute at that point. So that was a that I still think of that as I still count that as a spiritual experience of something. Um, and then the John Denver song, "Sunshine on My Shoulders," coming to my mind as the sun was shining through the window in the morning. Which every time I hear that, just burst into tears. Every time I hear that song now, you know. So that was quite a spiritual thing. Um, and it's lots of other little things that I experienced are when I was working, I'd be thinking about a client, and as I thought about them, they'd phone me, and it happened numerous times. And I'm convinced we have some kind of connection with people that's beyond just speaking and seeing each other. The four main senses that we have. There's something else that's subliminal, that's not quite tangible, but it's there. Um, and and I believe these things that happen for a reason. Maybe those thoughts of somebody come into my head for for a purpose. I mean, the fact that you've said in the last couple of, you said to me, "Oh, we're organising this session today." Um, I don't know. Maybe that's what we think about my childhood friend was, then actually feeling the need to go out and go and visit the grave and to go down and see where we spent time. I've had other healers speak to me and say that there is someone looking out for me. Um, that there's somebody in the universe, somebody there that still cares about me and still cares and loves me, and I found that when I saw that when it was sent to me, it was really quite emotional. Get this somebody, a couple of people did, a couple of ladies did readings for me just randomly, um, and there was a lot of truth in them. So, and I can be quite skeptical as well. But it it's but I just thought, but whatever it gave, what it did do is it gave me comfort, and that matters. I think that matters in
Yeah,
their
it
lives.
does, and I think being
Whether it's
skeptical
whether
actually
it's
is yeah, go on.
yeah, it's all right. It's just the time. Yeah, being maybe having a little bit of skepticism, I think keeps us protected a little bit from what can be dangerous ground we can get into. So, but I say I like to be curious, but I can be skeptical as well. So it's getting that balance.
Yeah, and balance is so important at the moment. Especially with the energies that have been coming in, we really do need to have that healthy balance because if we're too one way or the other, we're going to be off kilter and we're not going to be able to actually move forward with our lives with joy and happiness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If I, I often use the word tranquility really rather than happiness. Happiness is a kind of a thing that's it's a word that's almost loaded. So I think of more in terms of tranquility. If I can feel tranquil, which kind of means a bit of balance, really. Um, that there's not that it's not too far to the left or to the right. It's somewhere in the middle. Um, it's not too fast. It's not too slow. It's the right tempo.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, an interesting one. Quite like that word actually, tranquility. See, now that's got me thinking. Which is always good. So, I mean, obviously, with the work you've done, the experiences you've had, who do you feel are angels? How do you see them? Who or what do you think they are?
That's an interesting question. I think it for me. It's still a bit of a hidden thing. I think it's something that's still a little bit beyond comprehension. Um, it's just it's around feelings for me. If I sense something is right, um, that as I was talking about intuition earlier, um, I've learned to trust my intuition. I'm learning to trust my intuition, I should say, really, because I'd also have a lot of doubt. I'd have a thought about something, about a feeling about the way somebody responded to me or the way somebody had treated me, and I get a thought, "Oh, that really hurt. He's doing this to me, or he's thinking that about me, or this is happening, or that's happening." And I challenge myself, "Well, how do you know, mine? How do you know this? How do you know that's going on? Because you're just actually just making it up. You're just trying to make up your own." But 9 times out of 10, I'd be right. I'd sense that somebody was attacking me for some reason, and I later find out that I was absolutely correct, that they were. In fact, in some cases, in a more forceful way than what I thought in the first place. So it's so mate, angels are definitely something spiritual. It's definitely, I think, for me, another realm. Um, are there angels that are within human beings? I don't know. I've spoken to other people. I've had other guests on my show that talk about.
Oh, and we've lost Martin, so we'll just have to wait for him to come back. Obviously, as we know, the internet as it is sometimes plays up. Could be the angels, could be the spirits interfering with the conversation that we've been having. So hopefully he'll be able to get back in. Um, but whilst we're waiting, who do you think are angels? You know, I personally think that we can have angels that come into our life as in human form. They might not be angels as in the biblical or the spiritual sense of angels, but they have that awareness about them that you kind of like go, oh, that person turned up exactly the right time. You know, was that would that as they turned up, that was the best way of experience them as an angel. And welcome back.
I just hit refresh and it seemed to work. I, funny enough, I could hear everything you were saying. But I knew I'd gone off screen, and this again is really fascinating. This has happened to me several times. Once you start getting into a spiritual conversation, there is something, and I think, and I believe it, that there is some. We sometimes get some kind of interference in the ether. Because the amount of times I've got into really deep conversations with other people, and then the internet goes down or the connection goes down. So, you know, and it happens too often to just be a coincidence.
Yep. Yeah, we know that one. That's happened a few times on this show. Uh, with some of my guests. But hey, to me, that just shows that we're having the most perfect conversations because the energy wants to be involved and it ramps itself up um, uh,
Yeah,
uh, for us. So you mentioned about your friend earlier from childhood that you felt the need to go and visit him or go and connect with him today. Was would you say that he's kind of like a spiritual angel around you? Your connection with him from the past.
I think so. Yes, he was to me like Peter Pan because he lived to the age of 13. He was born with a deformed heart, and he's always a child. So he was. I was a couple of years younger than him, but he was always smaller than me in stance as well. He could stand, he could walk a little bit, but he was very childlike, um, in that very innocent way. And it's funny. His father had said at the time he'd gone in for this heart operation in London, which was just before Christmas of 1975. Um, his father said to me, when he comes out of hospital, I'll take you to a show in London. We're going to see Peter Pan. Fortunately, pulled in operation. And so that's, for me, that's what I always think of him as being like Peter Pan, as being the forever child. Um, and somebody who I loved deeply in a very special kind of way. It was just um, crikey. He was my soulmate. He really was my soulmate, and it took me years and years to come to come to terms with it. Um, the fact that he'd gone, and I've been looking at stuff about that now. So, but I say he's never forgotten, and there are times when we need to just go and visit those times. I just needed to go down because that's a memory for me. Going to going to Forness Bay in Cliftonville, in Margate in Cliftonville, and walking down there. It's an empty beach now. In the 1970s, there were beach huts all the way along there. They're all gone now. It's all desolate.
Mm.
Everything's gone. But for me, there was a memory that this was all those summers I had down there. I absolutely loved being down there, and spending time with Paul, and then going down to Kingsdown, which is near Deal, the tiny church.
Here we go again.
Just on the slight bit of the hill up from the beach, and going into that lovely little Norman church, and going to the gravestone, um, and then realizing that I'd always wondered whether his father had passed away. I was pretty sure he had done because of his age, and then seeing that he'd passed in 2017 at age 86. So the whole family had gone, but I just needed to be there, and he was chucking it down the rain. But but that it was just I just wanted to not only just go there for myself, but also record the fact that I've been there, because that again, that's something that becomes a legacy that remains forever. Um, uh, Paul will never be forgotten by me, and I wouldn't want him to be forgotten. It wouldn't be forgotten that I remembered him. So and he's there somewhere, and I
Well,
do and I do wonder whether
he's yeah,
I
yeah,
do
he's
wonder
he's
whether
probably
he is
he's
the
probably
angel.
him.
Yeah, I do wonder whether
Yeah.
he's the angel. He's the angel that guides me. You know, even through really difficult times. I've had some difficult experiences, with depression and so on through my life, and somehow managing to keep on going, um, and it's just I don't know. It's difficult to explain. It's difficult to explain. The grief, the grief is a kind of a strange thing because it's it's um it's not a painful grief. It's it's a relief kind of grief. Is that going to visit those emotions, connecting with those deep emotions that we have, that memories that sometimes we can get into the point of actually wanting to get all that out of the way and not wanting to face it because we've got too much and too busy to do in the day, and not wanting to go. But we need to find those times, when when bereavement happens, to just spare a day and just say, "Okay, I'm just going to go and visit it, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to experience that emotion, allow it to happen, allow that emotion, give it permission to be there." So it doesn't have to be as painful as it might be. It is kind of painful, but it's not. It's not an unpleasant painful. It's a. Do you understand what I mean? It's like a pleasant kind
Yeah.
of pain, and then it passes, and then there's a sense of relief
Yeah,
that
so
you've
it's
been
kind of like
visited.
a cathartic, uh, type. It's like he comes in and goes, "Okay, think you need to now have, get a little bit of, imbalance. Let's see what we can do for you." In fact, he was probably the one who, interrupted the show when we were talking about him.
More than likely. And I just like to say that, but for people, for your audience, Ray, is if there's the people out there that are experiencing any grief right now, um, the message I want to offer to people is to don't don't try not to avoid it. We go through that stage of where we go for a coping system, where we have to cope, just go on, and life goes on. But there are times when actually, if you just shut it away, it will boil up, but it'll boil over, and it can be very. And that's when it becomes painful because it turns into something that it's not. So you might get angry or upset or mood is in a certain way. I've got no reason to feel this, and I felt this in the past as well. And then actually having searching the mind, and then realizing when that emotion boils over that that's what it is. That the truth is when we face the truth. I think we cry when we face the truth. We cry real tears when we face the truth. Like that lad on the train. He's he. I think when I said to him, "I've got nothing I can give you," there was nothing materially I could give him, and I think he faced his real truth. That's where he was at, and that I say that was such a powerful experience. Um, that day, and I say I do wonder whether he actually in our realm actually really existed, or whether I just experienced that and it wasn't real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, but whether it was or whether it wasn't, it's not the point. It's the fact it happened and I experienced it. It was my experience, and it led me into going somewhere else with my
yeah.
life.
But yeah, which is absolutely amazing, and thank you for those words of wisdom to those that might be coping with any grief out there, and not just of loved ones, but in life in general, itself. So, Martin, as you know, I read angel oracle cards and I do guided meditations, and each week I like to ask my guests what they would like me to do for themselves and those watching. So, would you like me to pull an oracle card for you and everyone watching, or would you want me to do a guided meditation?
Um, I'd like you to do a guided meditation because I do like guided meditation.
Okay, well, we're going to do both because we're going to do a card that's going to give us the guided meditation to time very
Lovely.
nicely with what you and everyone else needs to know here. So let's see where we're going to go with this. So it's going to be a mini guided meditation. Oh, beautiful. Perfect for what we've been talking about as well. So, Martin and everyone watching, if it's safe to do so, close your eyes. And as you do so, take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, just release everything that doesn't need to be in this space. And allow your breathing to fall into its natural rhythm. Every in breath relaxing you more, and every out breath, just releasing what doesn't need to be here. And just think about relaxing your whole body. Think about relaxing your whole body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, all the way down your arms to your fingertips. For when you think about relaxing, so you will relax. Give yourself permission and allow yourself to relax. And as you're allowing yourself to relax, just feel the whole of your head just relaxing as that relaxation moves down your head into your neck, down into your shoulders as if they're being bathed in beautiful warm sunshine, all the way down your arms to your hands and your fingers. That relaxation moving into your chest, all your chest muscles relaxing, your stomach muscles relaxing, the whole of your back relaxing. It just feels so safe and secure as that relaxation moves down into your hips, your buttocks, down your legs into your feet and your toes, and your whole body is just so relaxed. And now just engage your imagination and just see, feel, imagine yourself standing in a beautiful valley with green grass and beautiful coloured flowers, the sun coming down from a beautiful blue sky with maybe the odd wispy white cloud, and maybe you can smell the scent of the flowers, the grass. Maybe there's some insects like butterflies or bees, or maybe a little creature. And you notice through this valley there's a pathway leading towards a beautiful a mountain range of the most beautiful looking mountains, maybe different colours, browns, golds, reds, lilacs, purples, blues. And you know that it's time to keep moving forward. Know that you can ascend that mountain. So I'm just going to leave you a moment or two just to walk towards that mountain. And before you know it, you've reached that mountain and you see an easy path that goes up and through the mountain. Take that path. Maybe there's a challenge or something you've got in your life right now. See that on the other side of the mountain and start walking along that path, up that mountain path now. Ascend that mountain, keep going forward. And don't overthink things. Just allow it to come through as you've started that mountain ascension. Maybe the air gets cooler. Maybe the green disappears into something else. Maybe there's a bit of snow, but it's easy for you to navigate as you ascend that mountain, moving forward, knowing you're going to go past that challenge, whatever it may be. As you get to the top of that mountain, you look down on that problem, that issue, and you see it from a higher perspective. and you know how to navigate it, how to move through it. You can see it. You know that you can move forward past it. You've ascended the mountain. Enjoy that feeling of knowing you have gone past whatever it is. You've ascended that mountain. You are moving forward in your life. And feel that energy of completion, that energy of moving forward. Feel it in your body. Maybe give it a color. Just ramp it up inside you till it's glowing. You're glowing with that energy of knowing that you can move forward. You can move through anything. When you ascend that mountain, you can see how to navigate and get through to move forward. And in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. Each ascending number bringing you back to the present, to the here and now, remembering your whole journey and bringing back that beautiful energy. 1, 2, 3, bringing back that energy. 4, 5, knowing you're going to have a wonderful rest of the evening, day, sleep. Move your body, wiggle your fingers and toes. Make sure you come fully back, fully present, and open your eyes when you are ready. And welcome back.
Thank you, Ray.
How was that, Martin?
That was lovely. Thank you very much.
Ah, you're
That was very
welcome.
nice. It's nice to have that lovely perspective. Yeah, to to be able to just let go for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
And the
like,
card,
it's times like this. I, I, when people get emotional and uh, there's a must be a British thing, and they go, oh, sorry, sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. There's nothing to be sorry. We should never be sorry to be emotional. In that, to be should never be sorry to be tearful. And I always say to people, when a child is born, the first thing he does is cry. So that
yeah,
it's such a natural thing to do. Yet in our society, in our Western society, as I said right at the beginning, I was brought up to be, you mustn't show an emotion. You mustn't cry. You've got to be a big boy, and as I've gone through my life, I've completely turned that around. I flip that on its head.
yeah, which is absolutely perfect. So the card that came out was ascending the mountain, keep going forward.
Beautiful.
Which,
Thank you.
ties in with the show today and what you've been doing in your life is, this is confirmation that you've been going forward, in it. And again, for for anyone watching, just keep moving forward. You can ascend anything. We have the ability, to do that. And, you know, don't let emotions stop you doing that. Embrace them, allow them to propel you forward.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's all part of it. It's all part of the journey.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I hope everyone you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, as I know I have. Now, if people want to connect with you, Martin, how do they do that? And have you got anything coming up at the moment or anything?
Well, I've got so I've got my um, audio podcast, which is Peace Unplugged, which is on most it syndicates to virtually all of the audio platforms. But I've also been focusing recently an awful lot more on YouTube, and doing video, like doing video podcasts, and learning a lot more about that and trying to improve on it, and learn from other people the ways about the technical issues around algorithms and one thing and another, which need to be learned, but also um, about being very sort of authentic and honest. Somehow I get sent people that when I ask for a guest and the guest comes on, it's like they're meant to be. I haven't had anybody yet that I've not had some kind of connection with, and that gets discovered sometimes mid podcast. So again there's something going on there that's meant to be. I'm sure of it. Yeah, so there's that. So my YouTube podcast is also called Peace Hugs. So I put out the I've been putting out a lot of daily little short snippets just recently, experimenting with that, and then some long form about twice a week. So long form twice a week, on basically on a Mondays and a Friday, and short form has been in the last week or so has been more or less daily, sometimes twice daily, just to see what happens. And every now and then one comes up and it sparks up and gets a lot of interest. So that's interesting because I'm thinking, right, what caused that? There's something about that because my primary aim is to be able to connect with people. I want people to be able to, um, to experience what we do when we talk across the ether, when we connect with people across the world. When we live in the same country, you and me, we're not too far away, are we, Ray? Really,
No.
relatively, but but it's still a connection, and we didn't know each other until we just came across each other. So I really like to find out from people what makes them tick, um, and just bring. Some people would say it's naive, but it's trying to bring people the world together so that we can understand each other rather than get into conflict. Um, and probably the conflict's always going to be there, but uh, I'm very much on the side of wanting to balance that out with the love. You know,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
always
You
things
make
that one of my favorite one of my favorite songs, um, that goes back to when I first started doing this sort of work, was Black Eyed Peas. Where is the love? And it's the lyrics in that song that are the most meaningful because it's a cry out for help, and I think those lyrics are probably more meaningful today than they were when they were written, when the song came out, was famous back sort of 10, 15 years ago, about probably 20 years ago now. Um, so I just think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is. So thank you so much, Martin, for sharing your wisdom and being on the show. And of course, if you're watching this and you're
Thank
ready
you.
for more clarity and transformation, then I'd love to invite you to a Soul Path Discovery video call where during our time together, I'll pull a couple of oracle cards to help you gain clarity and uncover guidance from your higher self or the angels. You know, this is your chance to reflect, connect, and gain insight into your path forward. And I'd be truly honoured to have a one-to-one conversation with you and help you take the next step towards living the life for the way you're meant to live it. And of course, I do have a couple of free gifts for you designed to help you connect more deeply with your guides and explore your future. self. So check out the those in the comments, um, and grab yours. And again, thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost want to get clear on their destiny, just like you. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe. It is free, and hit that bell button to be notified of when this show goes live or I post new guided meditations. And remember, as Martin was saying, every time you like, share, subscribe, any of my work, any of Martin's work, any of my guests' work, you really help with that connection, that web of bringing joy, happiness, peace, and unity together for everyone. So do check out Martin's podcast, and I look forward to you joining me same time, same place next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.